Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. Well, here we have it. Just when we thought the miners were down and out, some life has returned back to the sector. Green shoots across the board today for virtually all of the miners we cover on the channel, and Bitcoin, which has made a strong bounce off the lows in the $91,000 or $92,000 range. We've got a lot to talk about in today's video. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about your portfolio, if you got shaken out, or if you managed to dollar cost average and take advantage of this sale. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, so there we go. Just when we thought the miners were down and out, Friday morning, a big recovery in the sector, Anthony. We talked about this volatility all week on the channel, saying this is regular expected volatility in both Bitcoin and the miners. We took a lot of criticism in the comment section, but lo and behold, the miners are back, green across the board today, and Bitcoin flirting once again with $98,000.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy day today. Bitcoin went down to 91 and it started to recover, but bear in mind at the start of the week we're at 108,000, so a little bit jumpy for some people, and maybe a few weak hands have sold some of their Bitcoin. But we said yesterday, a lot of the big institutions and the ETFs and Michael Saylor and a couple of the big miners have been buying Bitcoin this week, and they've not been selling. So yeah, you've just got to be. I suppose you just got to know what you do in this space. If you feel that you've got to sell Bitcoin, then maybe those S&P funds are the ones for you, not maybe the Bitcoin mining space.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation. I wonder in the comments as well, people go in and absolutely rip the miners. I just don't understand why you'd even watch these videos if you hate the miners and you think they're a bad investment and you don't believe in Bitcoin. It would be like us going on bank videos and putting in the comment section that we're not happy with bank returns. I don't get it, but regardless, Anthony, you and I have been through this cycle enough. We've seen these ups and downs, and we understand when there's great buying opportunities like we saw earlier in the week. Now, if we look at the mid-morning market update, pretty much green across the board. Miners and MicroStrategy really picking up some lost ground yesterday, with Bitdeer once again leading the pack.
Yeah, I saw MicroStrategy reach, it was at $300 earlier today, so it's recovered to about $350 now. So that just goes to show how volatile that stock is. And remember, a few weeks ago, I think it was well over $500 for a very short space of time. I think it reached $540 before it sort of like came crashing back down to the low 400s. So that stock at the moment appears to be even more volatile than some of these mining stocks. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the Bitcoin price since the start of the year, it's up about 120%. And you look at some of the mining stocks that the likes of Galaxy 150%, Bitdeer's up 130 year to date, Core Scientific 320% year to date, TeraWulf 109% year to date. Hut's heading towards 100% year to date. So there's some of the mining stocks have certainly kept up with Bitcoin. There are a number of poor performers this year, and predominantly it's some of those smaller mining stocks who've not really. Even from a year-to-date perspective, are in negative territory. So, there's a way to go. But bear in mind, if you think about the results this year, we had the halving. Some of the mining companies weren't really making any profits. There's only one mining company made an overall profit this year, and that was Hut 8 Corp, and they announced a very small profit in the last quarter. But year-to-date was a substantial profit for the year. So they performed really well this year. We do expect if Bitcoin price can, certainly stay where it is now, or even go back to where it was at the start of the week, some of these mining companies will bring out massive results at the end of December or when they're released in sort of like January stroke February. So we'll see an improvement there. But it's all about, the price of Bitcoin. And we've said every week along, the Bitcoin price is volatile and the mining companies are even more volatile. So, it really depends, if you've done the right research. Some people are saying it's about timing. I've not been selling any miners of late. I've been adding quite regularly, especially when these dips have occurred. But nobody can foresee what happened in the last couple of days there. I mean, one minute we're sort of like cheering Bitcoin at 108,000, and the next minute we're seeing it at 91,000 within a few days. So that's a big drop. And there's been no real news to substantiate that sort of loss. We haven't had a sort of an update from maybe Elon Musk saying, he's going to ban Bitcoin when he moves into into his new role. Nothing's come out like that. There was an announcement from the Fed that they didn't want to hold Bitcoin, but that's the outgoing Fed. There'll be a new Fed chief in place when Trump goes into his presidency. So I don't think we've got anything to worry about there. I think it's just a case of, make sure you do diligence, make sure you're not overexposed. So don't put everything in this. My exposure to mining and Bitcoin is not significantly high, and therefore, if it all went to zero, in the unlikelihood that it went to zero, I won't be losing too much out of it.
Sure. Now, it's interesting you bring up the year-to-date performance, Anthony. Another criticism we've seen is we're cherry-picking dates in terms of returns. So we have Miner Madness Q4 going on right now. We've seen the results. We've seen the leaderboard. Many of the contestants are up 50, 75, 100% in the last 3 months. We've also compared year-to-date returns, which you just talked about. And we got a nice chart out from Eddie Lux yesterday saying, hey, if you want to really compare from bottom to peak and you go back into the 2022 bear cycle, here's the returns on the mining stocks based on December 19th close price. So as you can see, you guys, miners are outperforming Bitcoin left, right, and center. It's just a matter of picking the right miners. And that's nowhere more evident than our Miner Madness competition, where you can see the spread. We have analysts that are barely breaking even for the quarter, and we have analysts that are up 50% in a 3-month period. So you extrapolate that out over a year, that's a 200% return without compounding based on that Q4 percentage. We also have our Q1 competition coming up, Miner Madness 2.0. So I would encourage any of you in the comments section that are saying, hey, you know what, these miners aren't for me, feel free to enter the competition and let us know how you fare compared to the other contestants and analysts in the competition. Now, Anthony, another interesting point here I wanted to bring up is how quickly the news cycle or the news machine can turn on Bitcoin. We saw Bitcoin, as you say, tremendous strength. Really since Trump's election, Bitcoin smashing through 100,000, making its way all the way up to 108,000. We now have a 48-hour pullback, and the news outlets have absolutely taken hold of this. I pulled a quick Google search this morning saying Bitcoin falling, Anthony, and you can see whether you're talking about Barron's, CNBC, Yahoo, Bloomberg, Decrypt, all of these news stations take no hesitation in jumping on this FUD or this bear wagon that we continue to see come up in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, I mean, I used to listen religiously to CNBC. I quite like a lot of the presenters on there. But what I find amazing is every week, or initially, actually in recent times, it used to be about every week. Go back 3 or 4 years ago, they bring on, the odd person to talk about Bitcoin, and they always give this impression they knew nothing about it, and was it something real or was it a scam? Some of the presenters have sort of changed their attitude now and are sort of like, but it's every day now. In fact, literally every hour they're bringing someone on the program talking about it. But it just amazes me when you see, we know it's a volatile stock. I mean, it was, before the election, it was a high of about 70,000. Since the election a month ago, it went up to 108,000. And so, yes, it's had a little bit of pullback there. Maybe some people have took profits. Maybe people weren't, happy with the announcement yesterday with the rate cut. Maybe the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East are causing some uncertainty. and people are selling, Bitcoin. There was a Chinese stock that's a fund that sold its Bitcoin on the 8th of December, quite a considerable amount of it. So, as it was reaching 100,000. So there are lots of, little things added together that, maybe like this, but it looks like, those people that are really in this space, playing this space, aren't selling Bitcoin. They're just, sat there, waiting patiently, maybe actually adding as the price drops down now. I mean, we'll see all the comments today now, probably because of the fact that we had a number of miners purchase in the recent days and were paying around about 100, 101,000 for significant amounts of Bitcoins. And yes, it dropped to 91, but, within about 3 hours, it's back up to 97. I mean, nothing's changing. Gold won't change that quickly. And we've seen a number of these days where it drops and then it
Yeah.
recovers. And, we probably need to think about the timing of some of these podcasts because it can change in the time we prepare for the podcast to when we actually go on the podcast, which is literally within about an hour of preparing for it. So,
Yeah.
we're coming into this sort of like fairly close to market open, within an hour and a half of market open, and a lot can happen in a day in Bitcoin world. And so,
It
I
certainly
think people
can.
just need to take a step back. But whichever date you look at this year, there have been a number of miners that have outperformed Bitcoin. Even from the competition, there's still about 8 miners since the competition started that have outperformed Bitcoin in the last 2.5 months. And yes, some of those miners have performed well throughout the year. TeraWulf's been one of those. Bitdeer's done well throughout the year. Core Scientific's done the best of all the miners, but it came out of Chapter 11. I mean,
Yeah.
its stock price had fallen so far that the only way it was up in sort of like in recognition of Yaz and the plastic population from 1988. The only way is up. So, yeah, I mean, just sit back and take stock of what's happening. Make sure you pick the right miners. There's enough information out there. If you're saying you've lost all your money on a miner there's probably a good reason for that. But we give enough help and information on here, tell you about which miners are performing well in terms of monthly performance, in terms of who's got the lowest cost to mine Bitcoin. We put out a lot of information out there, and people can use that information to help them in their starting point. But it's not just about me. You've got to do some due diligence yourself.
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Yeah, very astute observation, Anthony. And I'll also bring up the fact you and I talked for months about this $100,000 psychological wall. We knew this was going to be choppy trading. We knew this was going to be a battle of the bulls and the bears. So really playing out exactly as intended. But you're right, Anthony. Days like yesterday and the day before are buying opportunities. You should look at those as a gift, you guys. Don't worry about the portfolio balance on a day-to-day basis. Now, with that being said, what are the numbers you should be looking at on a day-to-day basis, Anthony? We like to say hash price, difficulty, and global hash rate. These are really the factors that pull the profitability, the margins, the revenue for the mining companies that we cover.
Absolutely. And we've been talking about hash price for probably the last 7 or 8 months. In fact, before the halving, we were focused on hash price. We saw the hash price drop down to below $40 a petahash per day, and that was as low as it's ever been in the whole life of Bitcoin itself. Then we started to see it slowly recover, and you can see from the graph there. Back in September, it was probably hovering around the $43 mark. It got to within $55 at the start of November. Then it dropped drastically then to again below, $45. And then we've seen a sort of like, as you come up to the election date, you see this rise in the Bitcoin price and in the Bitcoin hash rate index. It's no shock that the hash price index follows the Bitcoin price. And so, we've seen that increase there to well over $60 a petahash. That's a 50% increase from what they were getting 2 or 3 months before that. So great relief for the miners in terms of revenues they're receiving there. But you can see, literally day by day, the Bitcoin price is in that sort of band there. It's probably in the band of probably like 56 to 62 all the way through November and December. And yes, we've seen a bit of a a sharp pullback today, but actually we're probably higher now than the start of the day. If I think it was 97,500. So, we dropped down to 91. I think we were 96 at opening. So we're actually above the opening price. And as you say, all the mining stocks are, bar one, were in green territory. Not massively in green territory, with the exception of Bitdeer, but they're in green territory, and we're happy when miners are in green. So, it could have been another red day. I mean, Bitcoin going to 91, and like you say, all those news outlets coming out and saying that, yeah, hash price, hash price looks like it's heading back towards 60 with the Bitcoin price where it is at the moment.
Yeah, and when people ask why is Bitcoin at an all-time high and the miners are not, this is exactly why. Hash price is nowhere close to an all-time high. It has improved tremendously in the last quarter, which is going to be great for Q4 results. However, it's nowhere close to where it was pre-halving when it was up well over $100. Now, the other big variable here that not a lot of people consider or talk about is difficulty, Anthony. So, regardless of how efficient your machines are, how big of operation, difficulty is something that each and every miner has to deal with. We have an adjustment coming up on the 30th of December, but this is another one throughout the year here, just like Bitcoin price has continued to move up and to the right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's up massively this year, 45% increase in difficulty. And that means that, effectively these mining companies are mining less. So not only have they had the halving to deal with, the difficulty is taking away fractions of their Bitcoin production every 2 weeks, because it's literally, for most of the 26 difficulty adjustments that we've had in the last 12 months, the majority, I'd say probably 18, 19 of those adjustments have been in an upwards direction, which means you're reducing the effects of the amount of Bitcoin these miners are going to receive. Because there's more machines on the network, effectively, that's what happens. The difficulty only goes up when there's more machines on the network, and therefore the time to find that block time target, which is set at 10 minutes, if there's more machines on the network, it means that the number's been found quicker than 10 minutes, and therefore the adjustment will have to occur every 2 weeks to make sure it's reset. And like the equal opposite, if the mining machines come off the network, it becomes more harder to find that number, and then they'll reassess the difficulty so it comes down. So there have been, as I say, 7 or 8 times this year where it's come down, but the majority, it's been going up, and it's not been going up like 1 or 2%. It's been going up 6, 7, 8% sometimes. So throughout the year, it's at least 45, maybe 50% higher than where it was at the start of the year. I think it was around about 60 at the start of the year, and it's at 108 now. So it's getting on for nearly double where it was, and that's a real impact for miners. So again, not only they've got to compete with energy costs, efficiency of mining machines, they've got the difficulty, they've had the halving. It ain't easy being a Bitcoin miner in these times.
No, it's definitely not. And you talk about machines coming on and off the network. Global hash rate in the neighborhood of 840 exahash right now, with about 40% of that in North America. So that's a great stat to look at as well, Anthony, when you talk about these
And
exahash targets.
look at the chart there. You can see the times where it's actually creeping towards 950. Now, I can remember at the start of the year when we had some of the big CEOs coming on the podcast and giving their predictions for the end of the year, and they were blown away in like literally the first month and a half of the year. I think some of them were sort of around about 350 exahash. We're at 840 exahash. So it's just a different different times. Now, what happens in 2025, who knows? I mean, we know that some of these bigger miners are taking on a lot more hash rate as well. So, where we said 20 or 30 exahash was the 2024 separation between those that can and those that can't. And quite a few miners have already hit the 30 this year, or about to hit the 30 in December. 50 is sort of like that figure for 2025, and for the likes of Marathon Digital, that could be 60, 70, 80 exahash. So with all those new machines coming on, And with other jurisdictions maybe starting to mine, maybe some miners going online in Russia, maybe some going back online in China, if China released that ban that they've had in place since I think it was May 2021, that will affect the hash rate. And bear in mind, when you think about where these machines are actually manufactured, most of the Bitcoin mining machines are manufactured in China.
Yeah.
So if China reverses that ban, what's to stop that global hash rate going up even higher and becoming an even more challenging position for, the US mining companies?
Well, I'm sure it will. And hopefully, that FOMO, all these nation states getting involved with mining, scouring the world for Bitcoin, just drives the price up even further. So, great updates today in the market, Anthony. Glad to see some green across the board here. I was getting a little worried. I was worrying we may have to cancel Christmas on the kids here, but it looks like Christmas is saved. One other housekeeping piece of news before we let you go. We've talked a lot about board of directors strengthening the bench strength of these teams. So Soluna Holdings coming out announcing another appointment of Ernest Popescu to their advisory board. Ernest brings a wealth of experience and history constructing, planning, operating data centers. So this is a great pickup and a real step in the right direction for the team at Soluna. So with that being said, Anthony, I'll give you a chance to close out here. Great to see some green shoots in the market and an uplift going into the weekend here.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the miners will stay green today, and we'll have a weekend of transition for Bitcoin. It'll probably hover around the same price all the weekend. Then as Asia comes online early on Sunday evening, we might see what normally happens is there's a bit of pickup when Asia come online. But we've got about, was it now 4 or 5 trading days till the end of the year? So I know some people were predicting some big rises in share price. I had to look at one yesterday, and it was like CleanSpark is now the same price it was in December last year, and it hasn't changed, and yet the Bitcoin price has changed. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. The share price might be the same, but CleanSpark had a different amount of shares in offer in December last year than where they had now. I mean, bear in mind, just in the last 3 months, they sold 42 million. They put out an ATM in March for $800 million of shares. They've used it all. So, when you're comparing, make sure you take into account the dilution of some of these companies. That, you can't turn around and say the share price should be $24 if it's grown in twice size. They've issued more shares. They've issued twice as many shares. So you're effectively, your position is like, it's lessened because of that dilution. So people need to factor in that. And a lot of these big miners, most of these big miners that we're talking about on a regular basis, they've all used the dilution. Now they're using the convertible notes because that seems to be, the favorite lever to pull in the last few months. And a lot of them have used it well. And so, but that doesn't stop them all using the ATM in the future. They'll still use that if they require it to continue the growth.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up about share count there, Anthony. CleanSpark, terms of market cap, enterprise value up considerably this year, but share price, yeah, difficult. Maybe we should have been selling when Matt and Zach were exiting at the
Yeah,
$24.
next time we get a call from Matt and say if you're selling, let us know, and we'll make sure we put ours in as well.
I told you guys, private jets are the kiss of death. I've talked to many accountants, and they say as soon as people buy their own private jet, not companies, but people, that's the sign of a problem. So, luckily, you and I aren't quite at that problem yet, Anthony. We'll save that one for a few years' time. You guys have a great weekend. Hopefully, you're feeling better about the miners today. Don't lose any sleep over it. Bitcoin is on a monster bull run here. Companies, governments, individuals around the world have an insatiable demand for Bitcoin. And as we know on this channel more than anywhere else, Bitcoin miners are essential to that ecosystem. They're the ones that make the whole party work. So you guys have a great weekend. Leave a comment in the section below. Let us know how you're feeling. We'll be back here on Monday and hopefully enjoying the Santa Claus rally we're all waiting for.